Hey, it's your open source advocate, and I'm back with another video. This week I wanted to cover a cool little project called OpenMeetings. It's from the apache.org project list of items and things that they do. So OpenMeetings is pretty cool. In the past I've done one on Jitsi, so I'll put a little card up in the top there, and I will also put a link in the description. JitsiMeet is awesome. It's really cool to run yourself, but then also you've got the Jitsi official site that you can use for free because they've got some really awesome investors who pay for that capability and all the servers that it takes to run that. And it's really great, but it's nice to be able to self-host as well if you want a little bit more privacy. So OpenMeetings is another option that you have out there, and setting it up takes a little bit more effort than Jitsi does, but it's not horrible. You just have to kind of really follow the instructions, read the manual basically is the secret with this one. I was able to run through it on the first go when I set it up for my Linux users group. So I thought, hey, we'll do a video on this and kind of show you how to get this going. So I've got the instructions page here, and basically I'll put the link in the description. So I'll put the link to their main site and to the instructions page, which is just an extension of that main site. And when you come to it, this is what you're going to see. And right here are really the instructions. So there's a breakout of this that's a little bit more detailed, because step one here, you really have to actually go install a separate piece of software called Currento. And this is what kind of handles all of the WebRTC and media streaming stuff in the back end for the OpenMeetings. And then OpenMeetings is built on top of that. And then on top of that, you need Java. So there's a few things that you need in order to get this done. So this is really the page where we're going to start. And then we'll come back to this page when we're done and kind of finish out the steps. So the first thing we need is a server. So here you can see I've got my Linux group server, but I'm going to go create a new droplet. And on this, because I think it probably takes a little bit more resources to run, I'm going to do a little bit higher level droplet than normal. I'm not going to do the $40 droplet, but I will do the $20 droplet here. I honestly don't know how small you could go and actually get good performance out of it, but just to be safe, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do password this time, and I'm going to give this a name. So I'm going to call this meet.opensourceisawesome.com, and then double check my spelling, of course. Looks good, and I'm going to hit create. So that's going to create just a standard Ubuntu server. While that's going, I'll go over here to my DNS and I will add an A record. And we want that to be meet. And we want that to be 5 minutes. And then we will go get that IP address from DigitalOcean when it's ready. There it is. We're going to copy that and we will go paste it in for our A record so that we actually have that subdomain we can go to in a little bit. And that's done. So that's there. Good. So first things first, we have to get an email, and I will be back. So DigitalOcean, because I said I want a password, DigitalOcean is going to send me an email, and I will have to get the initial password from that and then reset my password. So I'll be back once I get that email. All right, we're going to try to log in here. So I've got my initial password from DigitalOcean. And yes, I want to connect. I'm going to do Control-Shift and V like Victor to paste in that password. Of course, you won't see it. Now it wants the same password, so Control-Shift-V. And then it wants my new password. There we go. So as always, sudo apt update, sudo apt upgrade -y. We'll let that run, and then I'll be back. So when I get to these screens, I always just keep the defaults. So I'll just hit tab and then enter, and then tab again and enter, just so that it doesn't mess anything up inside of DigitalOcean. I'm pretty sure they have specific settings for the VPS, so I just don't mess with those. Once this finishes, then we will reboot the server real quick. That'll take about 20 seconds. Then we'll get back into the server and continue with the install. Alright, that should be long enough. We will start to SSH back in here, put in the password that we changed it to. And we're in. Good deal. So if we go back here and actually read the manual, you'll see there's several different ways that you can actually do this install. There is a Docker install. After looking at all of the stuff that was going on there, I decided that I would just do a local installation. So it's really not that hard, but we are going to need Java up front, so we may as well just go ahead and get that and put it into play. So I'm going to go back to my terminal, and for Java you do sudo apt install openjdk, and I'm going to do 11. Oops, doesn't have that. Sudo apt install openjdk 11-jre. And yes, we want to install that, so we'll let that run through. That's the nice thing about DigitalOcean. It's really fast to install these things. If you're doing this on a spinning disk on a server you have at home, it probably won't go quite this fast, so don't expect it to. Just be patient. Alright, that part's done. So we got one step down. So here they're telling you how to remove an older version if you need to. As you move down, you'll find some other things that we need to do. So we've got to install a few packages here, and we will just highlight this. So don't forget that on Linux installs you can just highlight and copy and paste. Actually, I tried to do this before, and because of this backslash, because they made it this way, it didn't work so great. So actually I'm going to zoom this up so it's a little bit easier for you guys to read too. I'll move that up on the screen, and then we will just copy it verbatim here. So sudo apt, and I don't do apt-get, but update, and so we already did that. So we can just skip to the install part here, which is this second part. So we're going to say install -- no install recommends -- yes GNUPG. So this basically says install GNUPG, don't install recommended extras, and then basically if it prompts me, yes, I want to do it. And then if you spell sudo wrong, it's not going to work. So let's fix that. Okay, so everything's already installed. I can do sudo apt auto remove because it's got something that's not required anymore. That just cleans up your system. We'll clear that terminal out. So good, we're doing good. Now it says next, define what version of Ubuntu is installed on your system. So we only want to run one of these, and in this case we want to run this one because we're on 1804. If you're on 1604, you'd want to run that one. So we'll just highlight it, click it, done. Continuing down, now we need to add a key. So we're going to add this key right here. So again, highlight it, and then middle click, that pastes in Linux, which is awesome. It's going to do this. It should come back with an OK message if everything works as we hope it will. And be patient, it takes a minute. There we go. So everything looks good there. Now we've got another command we've got to run here. I think we can just highlight all of this and run it together. That should be done. Now we're going to install KMS. So again, highlight it all. Let it run. So this is the actual Corinto software. Alright, everything there looks like it ran okay. So now that we've got it installed, we can start and stop the service using these commands right here. So sudo service Corinto Media Server start. So we do want to start it. So let's go click on that. So we didn't get any errors. That's always a good sign. And then we should be able to do status. And we don't see any errors there in the status file, so that's good. If we wanted to stop it, we could do stop. If we want to restart it, you can do restart. So it just worked like regular services. So now you get to the stun and turn servers. So this is an important step. So stun basically says if you're behind a NAT and you're connecting to other people and you want them to be able to connect to you through NAT, you should have a stun server that basically helps that traffic negotiate through those different network systems. So that's if you're just kind of on your own home server, home system, things like that. If you're on a more like a corporate network, a lot of times stun won't work as well, and you need turn servers. These are a little harder. So stun servers are public. There's lots of public ones out there to go get and find, and we'll do that here in a minute. Turn servers, there's not very many turn servers that are public. They're a little harder to keep up and running apparently, and then also you need credentials. So they say a lot of the turn servers that are out there that are public aren't very reliable, so it's better to have one of your own that you're going to run. So if you're doing this for corporate purposes, it'd be smart to be able to know what a turn server is and how to start it and run it. We're not going to do that. We're going to do the stun server and just presume that you're trying to connect to this thing from your home for something like a Linux user group or something. So down here it tells you what you have to do stun. So basically you need the stun server address, the server IP, and then the stun server port, and you have to put in the port. So this isn't going to be by name as far as the stun server goes. You actually want the IP address. So there's a configuration file, and it's located in this path right here. So if we go back to our install, we should be able to find that. If we kind of scroll up, we can see that path. So we can just clear out the screen here and do cd/etc/Corento/modules, Corento again, web rtcend.conf cd. Yeah, so let's just cd here. And if we ls, we can see we do have WebRTC endpoint, so we'll do nano. And we want to find the lines that talk about the stun server. Stun server IP address, here we go. So we're going to uncomment this by removing the semicolon in the front. And then we're going to go and actually find the right stun address. So first just save this as is. It's okay. We're going to do a Control X to get out of it. And we are going to go out and just say public stun servers. So we're basically going to let DuckDuckGo help us find that. Here's a stun server list on GitHub. That's probably a good place to look. And if we zoom that up a little. So I always look for servers that seem like, I know that name at least. So SIPGate, I'm pretty sure I've seen SIPGate in the past. Here's one in the US, so sip.us. Let's take this SIPGate server. This is port 10,000. So we need to go. And what we want to do is get the IP. So we're going to do ping stun.sipgate.net. There we go. Now we've got an IP address. So don't forget, you need the IP address. You cannot use the domain. So we're going to copy that. We're going to go back into our file here. We're going to go down to that stun section. And we're going to go out here and we're going to erase this. And we're going to paste in that IP address, and we're going to change this port to 10,000. We're going to save our changes, and then we're going to just cd to get back to the home. And then if we go back through our commands, we'll come here and we'll do restart. And hopefully that means that it took our changes, so it's got the right stun information now. If you're not sure, you can always do the same command with stop, and then start it again. There you go. So now we know we stopped it and started it. Alright, we're going to go back to our instructions. So we've set up the stun information here. And then they give you a bunch of IP addresses too. I don't know how old this page is though, so that's why it kind of, I prefer to go look it up and see if I can find something that I feel like is probably right. So they say turn server. Here's how you can do that. So if you're interested in turn servers, they do have instructions here on the page on how to do that. Check your installation. So you can run this command right here. And we'll go do that. There we go. So we've got a little bit of information here. So finally you can check the RPC WebSocket information if you want to. I didn't do this on my first one. I'm not real worried about it. We've done the Corinto install and setup, so that was part one. That's complete. We can go back to our instructions. Now we need to download this file. So if you hover over it, you can see down here where it shows the link. It's actually going to take you to another page, so I'd rather open that in a new tab so I don't lose my instructions. Go to this page, and what we want is the tar.gz file right here. So I'm just going to right click, and I'm going to say copy the link address, link location. I'm going to go back to my terminal emulator here, and I'm going to say wget, and then I'm going to paste in that link. I hope this is the right link location. I think that was way too quick. ls. I'm not really sure that's the right file. Let's see. Let's see what happens if we click on it. Yeah, it did not prompt us to download it. It took us to another page. So if you ever do something like that and you're not sure you actually got the right file, or if you start trying to unzip it and it gives you an error, it's worthwhile to go back and click on the file and see if it says download. You can always SCP, so secure copy it up to your server. So we got sent to another page here, so we'll find a mirror. That's fine. Yeah, this should work. So again, we'll copy the link location, go back to our terminal. So first we're going to say rm apache ls, that's good, wget, and we're going to paste in that new address. There we go. Now that seems like it's downloading something. That feels better. So be aware, when you go through this download process, you're going to open in a new link, you're going to find that page, and then you're going to click on the one you want, and it'll bring you to a list of mirrors, and then you can grab that link location and copy it. Alright, so step 2, done. Java, we already installed, so we're good. So we're going to unpack this file that we just downloaded. So we're going to do tar-x zf, and if you want to see all of the files, you can put a V in there, and we're going to say Apache. There we go. And when it's done unpacking everything, you'll be back at the terminal here. You can do ls, and you can see now there's a folder, so we can cd into Apache. And there should be a bin folder, which is right here. So if we look at our instructions, it says go into the bin folder, run startup.bat if you're on Windows, .sh if you're on Linux, Unix, Mac. And then after that we need to run the web installer. So we're getting there. So let's go back here. We're going to go into the bin folder. We're going to ls. And there's a couple of things. So there's a couple of different sh files in here. I'm going to go ahead and run the startup.sh because I believe it's going to give us an error. So you can do this by hitting // startup.sh. That's the one we want. Don't run the bat file if you're not on Windows. Yeah, so it starts to run and it says, hey, I don't see something that I need, and it's basically the catalina.sh. Even though it's there, it doesn't see it, so we're going to do chmod +x catalina.sh. Oh, whoops, it kicked me out. Look, I didn't even notice that it did that. So it failed on that script and it booted me out of the server. Man. Alright, so we're going to do SSH. We're going to get back in here. Alright, there we go. CD Apache, bin, ls. So we're going to do chmod catalina.sh, and we want to do that as +x. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing to our startup file, sh. Oh, I did a capital X there. Oh no, startup.sh. What? Oh, extra dot. There we go. Okay. /startup.sh. So it says everything started. It ran through the little script that it needs to run. So we should have a server running at our URL now. And so they kind of tell you, here's the URL that it should be. So this would be, if you're running it locally, it'd be on localhost. In this case, we're not. So we're not going to put localhost. We're going to put our domain name. So we're going to go to meet.open, actually HTTPS. This is going to be a self-signed certificate, by the way. And then we're going to do 5443. Alright, so it's giving us a warning. We're going to say advance, and we're going to say accept the risk here. We want to move on to our site. Alright, here we go. Here's our installer. So this is our installer that we want to run through. So they have a lot of instructions, and it's kind of a wizard that you want to go through here. So enabling the import of PDFs into the whiteboard. So you need to install GhostScript. So this is all done back here in the terminal. So we're going to do sudo apt install GhostScript. We're going to hit yes, and we're just going to let that install. So as you go through this wizard, it's going to suggest things that you might want to install to make this a better experience. I suggest you try to install as many as you can. You might have to look up a few of them. I'm sure I will. So they're telling you, here's mailing lists if you need support, and here's commercial support. So we're just going to hit next. We did that step. Alright, so this is their warning. They use an integrated H2 database, which is kind of a file system database. They're suggesting that you do a MySQL, Postgres, some other form of database than the H2 if you're going to use this for production. You know, I'm going to leave it up to you guys. I'm just going to leave it as it is. I'm fine with the defaults for our purposes, but you know, something to really take into consideration if you're going to do this. So you can click on check. It should give you green. So if you do change it to MySQL or one of the others, you need to put in all your details and do check. Make sure it's good. So first out of the gate, you need to create a user. And then pick your location for your time zone. Keep passing it. There it is, America, Chicago. And a group or domain name, so we'll just call this Open Source is Awesome. And here's a few other settings that you might want to look through. You can set up email. I suggest you do that if you want to kind of control who's logging in and signing into your server. If you'd rather do it manually, that's fine. Just note that it's a lot easier if you have some kind of email system set up to send a verification. So you need to set these settings accordingly based on what you're going to do. So allow self-registering if that's on. That's where you might want to have someone have an email come to them to verify who they are. So here it says send email to new registered users. If you're not going to set up email, don't tick this box. Leave this red. In fact, if you want to see, you can click it and then click it back off. New users need to verify their email. If you're not going to set up email, you should leave this off. Don't turn it on. Finally, you can set your default language to whatever language you prefer. So we're going to move forward here. So document conversion, if you want higher DPI than this, you can change this. I mean, I wouldn't suggest it. The higher the DPI, the more space it tends to take up. 150 is usually good unless you're wanting really high fidelity documents for some reason. Document conversion JPEG quality, 90%. ImageMagick path. So you need to install ImageMagick, FFmpeg, and socks, and then you need to put the paths in here, and then you can check them to make sure you got the right information in. LibreOffice I did not do. You are welcome to install one of these and then put in the path for that as well. I didn't do it, and I don't think I'll do it this time, but if you want to, you can. But we're going to go do ImageMagick, so we will say sudo apt install ImageMagick. Yes, I want to install ImageMagick, so I'm going to let this thing run through, and then the path should be, I think, user/bin. So we'll check it. It says right here that that's where it should be. So we can go and actually check this. So we can say /user/bin. Check. And it gives us a good. It says it found what it wanted to. FFmpeg. So same thing. So sudo apt install FFmpeg. And again. Once this installs, we'll check the path. And I believe again it's in just user bin. So we will just put in /user/bin. So that's /usr/bin. When I say user, that's USR. Okay. Checked, and it's green, so we're good. And then finally the SOX path. And I believe that's just sudo apt install SOX. Yeah, there we go. So those are 3 pretty easy ones to install. They're pretty quick. And then we can put in /user/bin. And it's green. Now I'm not going to do this one. You can, but you don't have to. So I'm going to hit go forward. It's going to gripe at me because like, hey, you didn't install that one. You know, we were expecting it. And I'm going to say I don't care. I'm going to say move forward. So that's it. So crypt class, I don't really mess with this. I just left it alone. Enable SIP. So if you want to have SIP enabled, apparently that is an option. I'm going to turn it on. I don't exactly understand how it's going to work without SIP clients unless they have that built into the Corento, but we'll turn it on. We may have to set up some settings for that to work. I know somebody asked a question about that for JitsiMeet, so I will go back and reset up my JitsiMeet install and try to get my SIP settings working. So we're going to click on the finish button. We've set up all the kind of the prerequisite stuff, and it's going to start doing the install. So we've kind of set the prereqs, and then it does the installation, and it's done. So it says enter the application. Here's their mailing list one more time for you, and support if you need it. So we're going to click on enter the application, and it's going to prompt us. So I think I set this up as Brian, and password, I think. I'll say remember login. So if they're not a member, this is where you get to register, but I'm going to say sign in. All right, it's going. I could tell it here, of course, in the browser to save. I'm just going to tell it not to. So they have this cool little animation that says, hey, we're building things up, and now we're in the interface. This is the part where we get to see how to kind of use the system. So first, there's, of course, administration. You have quite a bit of stuff. You're an admin. Other users who log in won't see this information here. People who are joining your meetings won't have as many controls as you'll see in the meetings that I show you. But this is really kind of it. This is kind of your overview dashboard. So this thing is actually able to be modified pretty nicely. So you get a few things here. You can refresh this area. You can delete this section if you want to. But this is admin functions. So basically show the cleanup report is an admin function. So you have these little sections on your dashboard, and you can drag them. And you should get a highlight that says, hey, you can put that thing here. So you see it kind of highlights the screen, and I can drop it. So now I've got the screen kind of split into 2 halves. You have a couple of rooms here by default that you can jump into and actually start having some meetings. You can set up your user profile. And of course, this just has first name, last name because I didn't set up my user profile right off the bat. Anybody who logs in, who creates a membership, like signs up, will fill out a form where this stuff will be filled. So for you as the admin, you need to go to edit your profile. And then right here, you can fill out all of your details, make sure everything's correct for you. You can actually upload a little thumbnail image for yourself. and then you can go and set some community settings. So there's a few things here that you can do. Now you can also do search users, so you can see other users on your system. You can look at invitations, so if you send out invitations to people, you can check those. And then there's widgets, so you can kind of set up some different widgets that you might want for maybe your dashboard, things like that. Contacts and messages, so there is a messaging system in here that's a bit kind of like email. And then of course back to your profile. So when you're on administration, you have users, which we kind of looked at just now. But here's user information, and then you can go in and actually edit the user information from here. One of the useful things is, as long as this isn't being used for evil, is you can change the user's password if they need you to, or reset it for them. So a lot of times people forget their password, they need you to reset it. So if they'll let you know, you can go do that. Connections, so I think this just tells you like how many people are currently connected to your system. So if you're seeing high usage and you come here and you're like, holy cow, this list scrolls forever, you might need to check out who's on your system and whether or not they're supposed to be there. Groups, so you can set up different groups of users, and you can give those groups access to different rooms where they can have meetings and different capabilities to do those things in those rooms. So that's pretty useful. Then you have your conference rooms themselves. So they have some default rooms set up. You can just click on any of these rooms and it will show you the details over here on the right, and you can go and change those things and modify the rooms to be more what you want. So there's some decent settings in here. So the name of the room, give it a name that makes sense, right? I mean, maybe your organization likes to name things after different types of cattle. I don't know. Longhorn, right? Milk cow. I mean, who knows? So you could name your rooms different things, and then you could set a meeting with somebody on their calendar that says, meet me in the Longhorn room. And then they can come in here and find the Longhorn room and meet you there. Participants, so you can change the number of participants. It's kind of funny because it says like 1 through 25 users, but then you have 32 participants. That's kind of weird. But they do have other options, so you can drop this down and kind of figure out how you want this to go. So they kind of have the concept of a conference. This is all like people would be talking and chatting together. Presentation, this is more one person's really giving a presentation and everybody else is watching and listening. And then interview, this is really meant to be a one-on-one type room where you limit it down to 2 people probably. So you have a limit of people, and then you have the room type. So it's really kind of intended to be more, I think they're giving a suggestion here, not really like how many it's limited to. This is the limit. Then you can give some kind of comment about the room, and you can say whether it's an appointment room. So you can make it public. If you uncheck this, it becomes a private room. And then you can assign certain groups to be able to use this room. So if you're not in one of those groups, you wouldn't be able to see this room or access this room. So there's limitations. So this could be a demo room. So maybe this room is meant for demo only. So you're going to demo software, things like that. You can set that here. Then you have rights. So you can kind of go through and set different rights for what the room is allowed to do, what people are in the room are allowed to do, things like that. You can also set an exit URL, which is kind of cool. So when people exit the room, if you have people who come in from third parties that are looking at your organization and you're having some kind of meeting with them, when they exit the room, you can send them back to your organization's main page instead of back into just kind of this lobby area. So you can say wait for recording, which it looks like you can record inside the rooms. I haven't tried that yet, so I'm interested to kind of try it and see how it goes. So there's a chat panel, and there's panels on the sides, and you'll see that when we get in the room. So you can set here that it be open by default. Files panel open by default as well, so you can upload files and do some things like that as well. And then finally, you can add whiteboards. So the rooms have whiteboards. You can add them dynamically in the room, but you could also start the room with multiple whiteboards. You can give those whiteboards names so that they make sense. And when you talk about whiteboard, that's something where you have like drawing capabilities. You can type into the whiteboard. You can put images. You can point to different objects and things like that on the whiteboard as well. Users in the room, so you can see users that are in the room. You can also set moderators. So a lot of times maybe you have a big group and you have 150 people that you're doing a presentation for, and you want to have 3 or 4 people be moderators to help you moderate that session. You can set that here and set who those people are. And then your SIP settings. So this again would be a room where you're going to have a call-in phone number. I'll have to look into this more. I don't do enough with SIP to be able to say how this works exactly, but I think it'd be a really interesting feature to be able to add on to have a phone number there. So that's kind of the rooms, and no matter which one you click on, they all kind of look the same. You're just setting them up to be slightly different usage purposes. Maybe you have multiple rooms that are the same usage purpose, but you have a limit on people, and you need to have different rooms at the same time. So as we go down, configuration. So this is system configuration. And sometimes it takes a minute for things to load up. Sometimes the system just gets stuck and I don't really know why. So something to be aware of. If you click and it doesn't seem to be doing anything, you can just hit the refresh button. And usually that will get things going. So you see it's going to spin for a minute. It's going to get you back in there. There we go. Okay, so we're back in. Now we're into the configuration. So as you click on the different items here in the configuration, you can go in and change these. This is really everything that we kind of set up in that first wizard. But maybe you said, you know what, I do want email set up. This is where you'd go so you can set up your email and get everything kind of set. And you can just, like I said, click on the different options and it'll move you around through the configuration. You can change them and then click on save up here when you're done. Don't miss that little icon. It's kind of hard to see, but it's there. Let's see if I scroll. Yeah, there we go. So once we come in, we've got configuration. We've got the language editor. Apparently, whatever this is, you can change what this says. So if you don't like the way that it's worded, you can go in here and change that, and that updates something in the system. And then you can export this and import this. And there's a lot of pages of language in this thing. So you better sit down and have some coffee if you're going to try to change that. It does have LDAP capability and integration. So if you're using LDAP for authentication, you could set up an LDAP authentication system. It also has OAuth 2. So if you'd like to set up an OAuth 2 authentication method instead of using the regular authentication like I showed a while ago. Back up the system. So you can do a backup, you can do a system import or a system backup basically. So if you need to back it up and then import it to rebuild it, you can. And then finally email management. So again, you can set up email. So we're going to go over to the dashboard again. This is kind of where we started. And you see it doesn't, the menus quit working and I don't know why. So be aware, you may have some frustration with this when you're trying to be the administrator. So we're back to the home. And there is a calendar function. So you can actually set up calendar events for those rooms. So you see here, I've got this calendar. So today is the 27th, so if I click on the 28th, it opens up. There we go, beautiful. Okay, so it's pretty smart. You can set up attendees for whoever exists. In this case, it's just me. And then you could just do it as a group. So if you had everybody in a group, the location, so what room do you want to use, basically, add comments for it, and then you can pick your room. So actually pick the room that you want, and I could say I want this to be a presentation room. And it's not moderated, and that's really weird that it says room type and then choose a room, but okay. And advanced. So if you want to password protect the room, you can do that, and if you check that box, then you need to type in a password here. If you uncheck the box, no need for it. Notification type, iCal email. You can say don't send a notification, simple email, or iCal email. And then finally, calendar. So if you have different calendars, I guess you can set up different calendars. You can actually pick that. So I'm going to cancel out of that. But that's cool. They have calendar functionality. Rooms. So if you go to public rooms, you can see the public rooms here. And I'm just going to enter a room because I know that's what you're wanting to see. So let's click on enter. And you'll see it's working over here. There we go. So first thing out. Don't dismiss this box. If you want to be heard, you have to accept these things. Make sure it has the right camera. Make sure it has the right microphone. And then click on remember this selection. And then allow. There I am. Hello. And you can see that it's picking up my voice there on the little meter. And I'm going to sit back for you guys. I have to sit close because I'm blind as a bat. But there you go. That's me. Lucky you, you got to see me. Now if you want to turn off the camera, you can do that. You have controls over here on the left side of the screen. So I can go in and I can say I don't want the camera anymore, and you see it goes away. So here's me, but you can still see my audio. I like to drag this off to the side because it's kind of weird to have it there. but you already see people listed down the side, your different users, and as the admin you have control of the room. The person who starts the meeting has the room control, so you can control their mics and their cameras and things like that. Now you can't turn their camera on without their permission, but you can turn it off once they've got it on. And then you've got settings that you can pick up and kind of say, oh yeah, I need to change what I picked. But you have to allow it in the browser. If you don't allow it in the browser that first time, none of this stuff matters. You'll have to go out and clear that and fix that in the browser if you mess it up. So this is the whiteboard I was talking about. So here you can add more whiteboards, and you see they just open up in tabs, so I can prove that it's a different one. I will draw a happy guy here. I am not an artist, so forgive me. And that's me. Look at that. That's bound to be me with those big old ears. And we'll just give me some short hair here. There we go. Oh my gosh, my mouse button is stuck. There we go. Give me some short hair right there. And make my eyes look a little less weird. There we go. And maybe some nostrils. I don't know. Is my nose that bad? Okay. Cool, there's me. Now I can switch whiteboards. Ta-da! Okay, and I can switch back. So you do have multiple whiteboards, and you have multiple tools. So if you want to get rid of the drawing, you just click on that and hit OK, and it's gone. If you need to undo that, just click on the undo button, and it's back. You want to get rid of it again, click delete, and it's gone. So you've got different tools. You can save what's on the whiteboard. So I can click here, and I can say I need to type something. So this is for you all, or in the south of the U.S., y'all. There we go. Okay, once I've done that, I can click on my mouse pointer over here, and I can click away, and now I can grab this and drag it. I can rotate it, and of course I can click the X to get rid of it. Now this highlights your mouse when you click and leaves it on the screen. So this is when you allow other people to use the toolbar. You can see that they're pointing at something. So they could point at something on your screen and click, and you'd be like, oh, hey, thanks so-and-so. I appreciate you pointing that out. So that's kind of a useful thing once you turn everybody else's stuff on. So down here you get icons. I don't really know what the icons do. Oh yeah, here we go. So you can say, I need help. Give me first aid. I guess. I don't really know how that works. Oh, you can drag the toolbar around too. Okay. I don't know why he's swimming. Oh, there we go. So I had to click and hold and drag, and now I've got a guy who's swimming. And then he needs an ambulance or two. Woo! And then if I want to move those, I grab them. There we go. The ambulance is chasing the guy in the water, and he's chasing the ambulance. All right. So there you go. And then you've got an equation editor here that comes up. So it uses LaTeX syntax, and it's been 15 or 20 years since I've used LaTeX, so I don't honestly remember the LaTeX syntax. But anyways, so if you know LaTeX and you can make math formulas, if you don't know LaTeX, you can click on that button, and it will open a tab that will show you the LaTeX information. So right here it kind of shows you like, hey, I want to do something nifty. So let's copy this and see what it does. LaTeX shorthand, I don't know. Let's see if they have an actual formula we can copy down here. Let's figure out if that works. Go back to our meeting. Okay. I don't get the update button, so maybe I'm doing something wrong. I don't really know. Maybe I don't have LaTeX installed. So it's like, yeah, you can't really do that. All right. And then you have settings that don't seem to open anything. Okay, now, I will tell you one little gotcha. If you click this button, this is going to slide out, and I don't know how to get it back. So I can't figure out how to get it back. I'll tell you that there is a chat. So if you see it over here on the edge, you can click chat, and then you can actually chat with people in the room. And when you hit enter, it doesn't go. You need to do shift enter, no, control enter. Yes, so control enter makes it actually go. And then you see who sent it and all the information about that. And you can say everybody, so this is not just your room, but everybody, and then just your room. So it depends on who you're trying to chat with. Then you can hide your chat away again. So this button will hide that. So I'm going to go over here to Files first. And we're going to expand that out a little bit. So this is a really nice interface, by the way. It's easy to move around in. It's easy to do stuff. You can have video chat. It's actually really cool. It seems to be running okay. I mean, other than once in a while, it just doesn't refresh for some reason. So here you've got different files. So you can click on My Files. You can click on the room. And I think you can upload files to these places, but I haven't done that yet. So there's nothing there to show, really. Yeah. Nothing that I can see anyways. There's no files here. But you could add files and then you would have access to those files. Then we can go back. We can of course make this smaller. Now I'm telling you, when I click this, it's going to go. And I don't know. Oh, it stopped. Hey, I can get it back this time. Last time I did this, it did not stop. It just went away and there was no way to get to it to click it. So that's cool. And it kind of rescales things. So that's nice. To share your screen, you have to click here. When you click, you pick the size of the screen you want to do. You can say start recording or start sharing. So you could record the screen. You could also just share your screen. You can say screen or window. And then you still have to pick the size, how many frames per second. You know, the faster the frames per second, the more effort it takes, especially streaming. 10 frames per second is usually plenty. I wouldn't sweat it. So just depends on how you want to do this, but this is what size it's going to share out to everybody else. I would make this a little bigger, but 800 by 600 might be okay. But you can share your screen there as well. You can do polls. So you basically ask an audio question, say create a quick poll. Hey, do you like this or not? And then boom, down here, yep, I like it, or no, I don't. That's really all that's happening. And then when you're done, you just hit close the poll. Yes, I just closed the poll. And you can do create a poll where you actually have a title and a question and everything you type in. It still gives you yes, no, but you can also do numeric 1 through 10. So just depending on the type of poll you want, and then hit create, and it shows everybody the poll. So that's it. It's pretty basic. I mean, but could be useful depending on your use case. So you can send an invitation to the room. You can start to record the screen. You can download things as a PNG, PDF. You can reset the whiteboard. So if we do that, there you go. Everything's back to the way it was. And then file upload. So we could say, I want to select a file. I don't know that I have any files to select. Upload. No idea where it went. Again, so there's a lot of things that I'm not really sure like what's happening. I guess I have to go to files here maybe. And there we go. Okay, so drag it over and you can show it on the screen. So there's my little vector logo for my little application. All right, cool. So there's a few different things that you can do inside of the meeting. And then of course you can exit the meeting, which exits the room. Now you've got all these rooms to choose from. So here's recordings. So if you happen to record anything, you would see the recordings of those meetings here, and you can get public recordings, group files, my recordings, and then you can delete recordings, you can download recordings, things like that. That's really OpenMeetings in a nutshell. I hope that this is useful for you guys. I hope you think something is pretty cool about this. Maybe you'll get out there and install it yourselves and have a few meetings. Let me know how it goes. Our next Linux meeting is going to be on the OpenMeetings platform that I've got set up for that group. So hopefully everything's going to go really well. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks. And if you like this, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it, and I'll talk to you next time.